Hey guys, welcome to an episode of Chasing Billy. Made a post on Facebook and the YouTube community page recently about how a book I had just read called Before Billy the Kid by Melody Groves was the most offensively terrible book I've ever read about Billy the Kid. So, a lot of you asked why and what led me to make such an awful evaluation of the book. So I thought I would talk about it a little bit, and we'll just go straight to the book. First off, the cover. You have one of the alleged photos of Billy the Kid, purported to be Billy, that is not authentic. So it starts out with the book cover. It's not a good sign when a book about Billy the Kid features on its cover a purported photograph that is not authenticated. It does include the original tintype as well, but I think it's a little academically dishonest to include a photo of Billy the Kid that is not authentic in a history book about Billy the Kid, and it's featured as your cover. So that's the first red flag. Let me dig into the book a little bit, and I'll go across some things that I've highlighted as questionable or irritating or downright wrong, and I'll just show you a few examples. So, chapter one. Um, it, Chapter one's entitled "And So It Begins," and so it begins. I've highlighted the very first thing. One problem: it opens up, and the book says, like many children of the 19th century, Billy's beginnings are shrouded in mystery. Correct. And then it quotes Billy. Later on, I told people a lot of different ages, Billy stated to a reporter when asked about his age, mostly because I wanted them to think I was old enough to be taken seriously. Garrett and Upson wrote that I was born in 1859, and they gave me the same birthday as Upson, November 23rd. I think I was actually born a little later than that, maybe 61 or 62, but what does it matter? That's in this book as a quote directly from Billy the Kid. She does provide a footnote for it. She cites her source as Ralph Estes, The Autobiography of Billy the Kid, published in 2012 by Black Rose Writing. Unfortunately, that book is fiction. That is a novel. And nowhere in this, my initial thought was, well, maybe she's just using this as an illustrative example, of saying, Billy said this in this novel. I thought it was useful, so I'm including it. But nowhere does she specify that it's from a novel. She treats it like an actual quote from Billy the Kid. She opens the second paragraph of her book. Later on, I told people a lot of different ages. Billy stated to a reporter when asked about his age. Very odd. That's a work of fiction. Like, we know that, right? You're not quoting that as a historical source, right? Okay. Anyway, moving down a paragraph, she says later on, new research points to Billy being born in May of 1861. No, I, I'm unaware of the new research, which is okay. I mean, I'm unaware of a lot of research about Billy the Kid. The problem is she doesn't cite this new research. There's no footnote, there's no citation of what this new research is. It just says new research points to Billy being born in May 1861, and we're just supposed to take her word for it. I've never seen that anywhere, and I've spent a lot of time looking into Billy's birth and origins, and I have no idea what she's quoting here. And again, I'm not saying she's wrong. Maybe there is research that points to that I've just not seen, but it would just be good to know what that research is. A footnote would be good at this point. Moving on. After expounding on that a little bit, she says, so for the sake of argument, we'll stick with May 1861 as the year of his birth. So she picks a date that's not commonly espoused to be the birth date of Billy the Kid and provides no source for it, no historical backing for it, and then says, for the sake of argument, we'll go with that. This is a biography, a historical biography, and there's no reason to accept that. What in the world? And then in the paragraphs between that, she quotes W.C. Jameson, who is a brushy proponent and an author of terrible books. So, not off to a good start, but I stuck with it. Um, Next paragraph. Despite the question of his birth date, what is not in doubt is his name, William Henry McCarty. In 1873, he listed himself as a witness to his mother's wedding to Bill Antrim, written as, quote, William H. McCarty. Not true. The witness to Catherine McCarty and William Antrim's marriage is Henry McCarty, written Henry McCarty and Josie McCarty. So where does she get the William from? I mean, it's honest to God, like no records were consulted at all. And again, that's not footnoted. Maybe she had a different source. I don't know. Wouldn't know. There's no footnote. She says, in 1880 at Fort Sumner, the wife of Billy the Kid's good friend Charlie, Manuela, told a federal census taker that Billy was William Henry McCarty and that he was 25 years old and that both his parents had been born in Missouri and that he too had been born there. First off, we don't know who told the census taker that information. Secondly, on that census, he's listed as William H. Bonney, Billy Bonney. So where does she get William Henry McCarty? She uses that as an argument to support that his name was William Henry McCarty. His true name was William Henry McCarty. That's not on that census. Again, where is this history coming from? It puzzles me. Next, she mentions Billy's brother, Joseph. She says, Billy wasn't Catherine's only son. Around 1863, true, she gave birth to Joseph Bonney McCarty. So she states here that Joseph's middle name was Bonney. Never seen that before. Again, maybe it was, but it would be nice to see some convincing evidence and documentation. Again, no footnote to this. We just take her at her word. Catherine gave birth to Joseph Bonney McCarty. I've never seen anywhere that says that Joseph's middle name was Bonney. Absurd to not have a footnote, to not cite your sources for this. This is a history book. This is a biography. Unbelievable. To explain where the Bonney name came from, the author actually doesn't quote history. She speculates and says, this author has put together reasons that make sense. While certain facts are concrete, some are conjecture. But human nature hasn't changed in the past several hundred years. So her source for where the Bonney name came from is conjecture and human nature. Man, I've never seen history done this way. This is just wild. What a wild ride. Okay, I'll skip that. She's talking about Catherine's move to Wichita. She says Catherine had to move to satisfy a craving to own property. Again, this is the kind of speculation I complained about with Wallace's book as well, The Endless Ride. We don't know what motivates people sometimes. We have no idea if Catherine's craving to own property drove her to Wichita. And it's absurd to state that as history. It's okay to speculate. It's okay to sit around a campfire with your bros and talk about history and what you think happened and why you think people did stuff. But the game changes when you're writing a book. And the speculation and the things that fly when you're speculating and you're tossing around ideas, those standards don't hold up when you go to write a book. You know, you need to quote sources and facts and report history. And this, I've just never understood this. Like, yeah, she totally just had this deep craving to own property, and that's what took her to Wichita. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. Stop speculating. Blows my mind. More speculation. She says that Catherine was a conscientious mother and had second thoughts on bringing up her sons in Wichita. We have no idea. We don't know that at all. I'll skip that. More speculation. More speculation. Speculating. Just speculating all over the place. Okay, she's talking about the wedding in 1873 the wedding of Catherine McCarty and William Antrim. She says, "It's hardly speculation to assume that young Henry's emotions must have run the gamut from hating Antrim for breaking up the McCarty threesome to being overjoyed at completing the family." She says that's hardly speculation. That's all speculation. You speculating like crazy. That's insane. We have no idea what gamut of emotions ran through Henry's head and heart. No idea. She goes on to say this was likely the first time Henry had a real father. Antrim was a grown man, someone he could look up to emulate. He must have looked forward to many years of having a dad, fishing, hunting, driving wagons together, everything a boy could want in a father. No freaking idea any of that went through Henry's head at this age. We don't know. We have no idea. Stop speculating. It's just terrible. Moving on. I ain't even got to the good stuff yet. Now skip that. Okay, this discusses Billy's quote favorite song. A lot of people said his favorite song was Silver Threads Among the Gold. Here she says the first time that Billy heard Silver Threads Among the Gold, a newly written ode to a sweetheart, Henry was taken with the heartfelt lyrics and sentimental music. I know this is small change. It's this is the kind of crap I hate to see. We don't know why he liked the song. We have no idea. Stop putting these things in you're creating a biography of Billy the Kid. Stop putting these things in their lives and these motivations in their hearts that we don't know about. You're painting a picture that you want to paint about Billy, and you're not getting as close as you can to an objective history. That's what a biography should be, right? In the history section, something that's based on fact, not speculation, and not what motivates people emotionally that we don't know anything about. Absurd. Again, Henry thought of Clara Truesdale as a second mother. We don't know that. Maybe he hated Clara Truesdale. Just no source for any of this stuff. Then she talks about Henry's gambling. She says residents of Silver City accepted Henry's gambling as a legitimate way to make money. He was a quick study, having learned from Bill Antrim before he left town. Did Henry learn how to gamble from Bill Antrim? We don't know. There's, I guess a lot of people assume that Antrim gambled. Probably a safe assumption. But, did Henry sit by his side and learn how to gamble from Antrim? That's just, we have no idea. This one's good. Through the fall of 1876 and spring of 1877, she writes, the Kid had his choice of 12 saloons in which to play poker and deal monte. More than likely, he tended bar at Isaac's Saloon as Austin Antrim. It was here, during an indoor shooting competition, that the Kid took aim at John Brannaman, but hit Phineas Clanton, one of the Ike Clanton clan, in the mouth, taking his 2 front teeth. At the end of the paragraph, she cites a footnote. So I'm like, hey, this story I've never heard about Billy the Kid, going under the alias of Austin Antrim, working at a bar, and taking place in the shooting contest and shooting out the front teeth of Phineas Clanton. That's pretty specific stuff passed over as history, right? There's a footnote. That's encouraging. One of the first times I've seen a footnote to an outrageous claim in this book. Let's check it. Footnote. An article by Danny Harrelson. The article's entitled, Did You Know What Fort Grant Dragged In With It? Part 2, published in the Eastern Arizona Courier, June 19th, 2016. Well, I had to subscribe to that newspaper to get this article. So not only did I buy this book, I had to pay $10 to subscribe to that article to read it. No mention at all in that article of the Phineas Clanton incident or Billy tending bars Austin Antrim. Maybe I overlooked it. Entirely possible. I'll eat my words if I did, but I don't think it's in there. So where did this story come from? Now, I consulted another book, the book by Mills, and, he does not credit this incident to Billy the Kid. So I'm pretty sure I've never read this before as an incident attributed to Billy the Kid, and I don't know where she got him being there and doing this under the name Austin Antrim, working a job as a bartender at that saloon. Very specific history, not properly cited. Probably not true. I'm going to say it's not true. Terrible. Again, Austin Antrim, I don't think was ever an alias of Henry McCarty. There's one reference in the Arizona newspapers when he kills Frank Cahill, and it says Austin Antrim shot Wendy Cahill or Frank Cahill. But it goes on in that same paragraph, and it calls him Henry McCarty or Henry Antrim. And what I think happened, and what most people think happened, is it's a misprint in the newspaper. There was another story that referenced Austin, Texas. You know how a lot of articles begin with the location where an event happened, and the word Austin got transplanted. I don't think anybody seriously thinks that Billy the Kid used the alias Austin Antrim. Maybe he did. We could be wrong on that. But again, there's no source other than that says that. And I don't know where she got this story at. It'd be good to know. Okay. Next up, she says Bill Antrim became aware of his stepson's new profession and widened the distance between himself and the kid. He returned to Silver City in February 1877 and refused to claim any relation to the kid. I don't know that that's the case. That could be in some recollections of some old timers in Silver City, but I've never seen any documentation or any reference that this specific event ever happened, that William Antrim ever returned to Silver City. Somebody specifically asked him about his stepson, and he was like, no, I don't know the kid, blah, blah, blah. Again, I could be wrong. It would be easy to prove me wrong with a footnote, but it's not here. This is why footnotes are nice. You know, that's a big problem with this book. There's just footnotes are here, but they're not where you need them. They're here when she needs to quote, Wallace or, somebody else that's written a contemporary book by Billy, but not here when she makes an extraordinary historical claim you won't find anywhere else. That's a problem. It's a red flag. More speculation. Won't bore you with more speculation. Whew, man. More speculation. Okay. She says, in La Masia, the kid met Tom O'Keefe, a young man his age, and they hit it off. Tom was headed to the Pecos Valley in search of work, so the kid went to. Pretty sure Ash Upson created the character of Tom O'Keefe out of whole cloth. I don't think his existence has been verified or confirmed by historians. Could be wrong on that. Be nice to have a footnote. You see a pattern here? It was just surprising to see Tom O'Keefe mentioned in a history book. So, so here Groves writes that a widow and her children were staying at the Joneses Ranch, the Caseys, I would assume, while Billy recovered his strength. The 14-year-old daughter was, quote, clearly smitten with Billy. And she's talking here about Lily Casey, who later became Lily Klasner. I don't get the vibe that Lily was ever smitten with Billy when she talked about him. She actually spoke very poorly of Billy. So where does she get the idea that Lily Casey was smitten with Billy? Odd. She's just describing Billy's graceful movements and his mannerisms. It doesn't mean that she was smitten. It's very weird. Next, let's talk about the photos in the book. Oddly enough, every photo in the book, just about, I think there's one exception, but I'm going to say every photo but one, but I could be wrong on that. It could be maybe like 99% or 98% of photos in this book all come from the author's collection. And I don't know if that's how it works. Like, I don't think you can just save a picture from Google image search and then all of a sudden say it's from the author's collection. I think you still have to credit where photos come from, but I could be wrong on that. Anyway, concerning a couple of the photos, there's one chapter where she's discussing McSween, and she shares this photo of Alexander McSween. The only problem is that this is not Alexander McSween. This is an unidentified man from the photo album belonging to a man named Steve McCarty, no relation to Billy that I know of, who just found it in an antique store and claimed that it was Sally Chisholm's album. Um, Even if it were Sally's album, there's no identification to any of these people in the album, and it's just arbitrarily picked. He found just an album full of just regulators and every principal player in Lincoln County, and it's just not true. It's just these aren't the people that he identified them as, but unfortunately it took off on the internet and everybody uses it. I feel like the author did not do her homework and just grabbed some pictures from McCarty's collection, which is very unfortunate, but this picture is not Alexander McSween. Moving on, so she might want to get that out of her collection. Um, Later on, she references this image of Sheriff William Brady, which is not William Brady, but another picture of an unidentified male in Steve McCarty's photo album. Concerning the fight at Blazers Mill, she says that Roberts and Brewer were buried in the same coffin in a grave near Blazer's house. That is an often repeated story, but it is also a story that is disputed, and many folks who are involved in that and eyewitnesses claim that they were buried in separate coffins. So it would be nice to have a little clarification on that. When she's discussing the Lincoln County War, she says that the Lincoln County War, also known as the Big Killing or the 5 Days War, and then she goes on, but the Lincoln County War was actually a longer and overarching conflict that included the 5 Days War and was not just the 5 Days War. So, I mean, my goodness, we'll skip that. She's talking about the amnesty that Wallace proclaimed for participants in the Lincoln County War. She says Wallace declared amnesty for all parties involved in the Lincoln County War, all except those with an indictment against them, which Billy Bonney had. But Billy did not realize he had been singled out. Wallace did not single Billy Bonney out. Many people had indictments against them. Billy was just one of them. It's not like he declared amnesty and with just the motivation to go after Billy the Kid, declared amnesty to cover everybody with except those who had an indictment, and Billy was the only one with an indictment. It's not how it happened. Many had an indictment. Most just got out of Dodge and didn't have to answer to it. Billy's one of the few that stuck around, and they used it against him. But he was not singled out by Wallace in his proclamation. It's absurd. Discussing Fort Sumner and Billy's presence there and his relationship with Paulita Maxwell, she says, surely Paulita had told the kid, or maybe he guessed, of her pregnancy shortly before his arrest at Stinking Springs in December of 1880. And that's one of the reasons Billy hung around Fort Sumner. Paulita had told him she was pregnant. There's no source or reason to put this idea forth as historical fact. There's no record that Paulita was pregnant from a relationship with Billy the Kid. There's no record that he was told that and hung around. I'd like to see where she got this idea. The footnote. Oh, there's not a footnote. So yeah, just accept it. That's definitely what kept Billy around was Paulita's pregnancy. Okay. Unbelievable. Pete Maxwell even heard rumors that Paulita was pregnant with the kid's child. Okay. Same footnote as the other one. None. Okay. Here she's talking about how it all went down that night of July 14th. Billy, quote, quietly entered and made his way straight to Paulita's bedroom on the southeast corner. Spotting her snuggled in bed, he began to undress, laying his pistol on a nearby table, taking off his vest, pulling off his boots. But quickly he realized something wasn't right. Movement outside the window on the old parade ground startled him, heart pounding. He ducked under the window and peeked out. There he sees Poe and McKinney. And then, quote, senses on high alert, the kid left the gun. The kid, quote, senses on high alert, the kid left his gun on the table, tiptoed out of Paulita's room, and crept across the corridor to Pete's room. These are lies. Certainly, there's nothing she can footnote here because that's not how it happened. And it's just fabricated history. I mean, this ought to be a fictional account. This ought to be a novel. This is insane. In her, at the end of the book, the last chapter, or we get to the end of the book. She's kind of wrapping up some loose ends. She's talking about Joseph Antrim, Billy's brother. She said that he was a runner for poker games all his adult life. Fair assumption. All right, I'll take that. He was an opium addict and an alcoholic. No proof of either of that. That's a bit of a reach. And then she includes a picture of Joseph Antrim. The only problem is that it's a supposed picture of William Antrim, and even then, I'm not convinced it's William Antrim. But I would accept it more as a picture of William Antrim, and not Joseph Bonnie Antrim, which it is most certainly not. Again, I've never even seen this purported to be Joseph. I don't know if there was just a mix up when putting the pictures in the book or what, but that's not Joseph Antrim. Okay. And she says that Joseph mentioned that his brother, mother, and father had moved to Denver when he was young. No, he just said he went to Denver with his father. That's all he says in the newspaper article in the late 1920s. So let's try and be specific when doing history. It'd be nice. So that's not all of the passages that I highlighted that I had a problem with. Those are just the few that I wanted to share here. And you might say it's nitpicky, but it's bad history. It's bad history throughout. On top of that, if I didn't know better, I would suspect that it is written by some kind of like AI app or Chat GPT. I mean, it's just a very it's children's book level writing. It's very basic. You can actually get better writing and more accurate information from the Billy the Kid Wikipedia page, but that's in no way vouching for the Wikipedia page. It's just saying it's better than this book. The history's bad and the history's wrong, and I got a problem with that. And so it's really crazy because this book came out pretty recently, and it kind of released, I'm not too sure on the dates, but you have a book like this come out and a book like Billy the Kid, Bandito Simpatico by James Mills come out, which is like, about a 600-page comprehensive biography on Billy the Kid that does its best to stick to objective, verifiable history. Weighed up against this really, comparatively small offering, covering the same things, but getting it 50 to 80% wrong sometimes. And this one, it seems, has in certain areas been lauded and praised more than that. And it's really confusing. And as I was searching the web, I came across a review that Melody Groves, the author of this book, did for James Mills' book, Bandito Simpatico. And I'll just read it to you. She says, millions of pages have been written about Billy the Kid, the Southwest's iconic bad boy. Those pages explored his life, death, and everything in between. James B. Mills's book emphasizes Billy's connection with Hispanics and their influence on him. The book generally is a rehash of what is known about Billy, along with insight of factors influencing the young man's actions. Unfortunately, Mills has never set foot in Lincoln, Fort Sumner, or any of the territory Billy haunted. As an Australian, Mills hasn't made it to Billy's land to see and speak with people about what he writes. He has done mountains of research and reached out to Billy experts, so the information is fresh. At more than 600 pages, there are many stories squashed in there. That is a weird review. The faults that she seems to find with Mill's book can easily be applied to hers. Where her book is not a rehash of the same old thing, uh, it's simply not a rehash because it gets things wrong. Where it does get things right, it is a rehash, and it's a poorly written rehash. Um, so it's kind of odd that she holds that as a criticism of Mills. What's even weirder is it seems like that whole short review was written to point out that Mills is from Australia and to hold it against him for never visiting Lincoln. Um, Whether or not one has visited Lincoln does not make you an expert or any more credible when uh, writing a history or faithfully relating historical events. That seems really geographical. Uh, Seems like some kind of odd vibe of geographical supremacy. Seems like that whole review was written so she could take that little jab at Mills for being Australian and never being to Lincoln. That's really weird. And it doesn't hold anything. There's no relation to that and being historically correct. As can be seen, I mean, if she's been to Lincoln, she got a crap ton wrong. So she might need to visit it again, if we're going to go that route. But it's really odd because this book, I remember, when all this came out recently and they were doing the WWA Western Writers of America, they do this thing called the Spur Award, and this book won. Melody Grove's book won the 2023, I believe, Spur Award for Best Western Biography. This is a biography, a historical biography. It won the Spur Award for Best Western Biography. And I mean, that's to me absurd. Is if any kind of award seeks to have some prestige or some honor associated with it, I don't think you should give the award to this book. This book got too much wrong. Misidentified photos, incorrect history, poorly cited research. Uh, how does this win an award for a best Western biography for a whole year? Especially, I don't know when Mill's book came out, but if Mill's book came out in 2023 and was a contender for this award, man, that's insane. Looking into the Western Writers of America, let me just look real quick so that I'm not incorrect. We go to the Western Writers of America website. We go to About Us. Let's see. About WWA. Let's look at the, leadership. The 2024 WWA Board, Executive Director Max McCoy, President Melody Groves. Oh well. This book was offensively bad. This book was offensively bad. I've read a lot of Bad Billy books. Most of them were written, you know, between the 50s and 70s. So you can kind of fault them for not having some of the research that we have today. Some of the bad books were written, from Garrett into the 20s. Burns, you can fault, but you can kind of give him some space because it's kind of a novel. Garrett, yeah, we know him and Upson made stuff up. Siringo, yeah, copied it. Otero, yeah, more fanciful stuff. Neat stuff, fanciful. We give it a little bit of room. This book is offensive to me because it was written in 2023 or published in 2023. There's no excuse for the amount of bad history and just incorrect info in this that at the same time is put forth as such a good book, an award-winning book. And that, my fellow regulators, is offensive. All right, later.